I'm Mitch Eckert, and you're watching For Art's Sake. I'm Mitch Eckert. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm in Parkland College. Talking about my work, Everlasting Remains, here in the gallery. So I'm starting off with some of the calitype processes that I've worked with for the exhibition. The calitype is a historic-based process that requires the contact print of a digital negative to produce the final resulting image. In other words, the negative has to be the size of the final image. So these images are the result of a negative that is that exact dimension. And the calitype process, invented in the 1880s, is a silver-based process. And these are all toned in platinum, palladium, or gold, all the precious metals, to help with preservation of the image, but also to adjust the tonal quality, the final output of the color as a result of the toning as well. In all, the calitype process takes a couple of hours to produce a print from beginning to end. As it's a finicky process, it's hand-coated, so I have to apply everything by a brush. So the whole surface is then painted with this light-sensitive emulsion, allowed to dry, and then the contact negative is put on top into an exposure unit, which is all about the UV light. So it's a process that requires the UV light to produce a final result of the photograph. Where I was starting off with the process was thinking about historic Dutch still life paintings from the Dutch Golden Age, and emulating the format of in this case, the niche that was being produced for this. So I'm sculpting all of the objects that you're seeing in the tableau, as well as the niche that I'm creating for the project as well. And then following suit with that, since I'm manufacturing everything, and they all start off with color, I'm really interested in the conversation that can be had between the color versions as well as the monochromatic versions of the processes. What I'm doing here with the projections is taking, again, the Dutch still lifes, projecting them directly onto the constructions that I'm making, but paying attention to if there are fruits in the still life that I'm projecting, I want to make sure that the objects that I'm fabricating are all within that same, roughly that same position. So in this example here, these containers are really specific to the type of fruit that I was collecting for this. So if I'm buying nectarines in a plastic container and the painting has nectarines in it, I'm making sure that that is existing in that same space. So there's a direct conversation. If people were to see the actual painting, they would know the proximity of this. So that's one of the ideas that I'm playing around with in this particular work. And then the result of the sets that I'm making, any of this overspill is just the projected image going over the top of the surface of the staged creations that I'm making. And then over here I have Remains of a Feast, which was the idea behind the body of work, which is the fact that all of our plastic things that we get our food is a permanent part of our landscape. And I want to kind of play around with some of those notions. If we were in a table setting from 1,000 years ago or earlier, let's say we're having lunch in Pompeii, would this be the remains that we are unearthing now and learning about society from that point? Even though these containers were manufactured years ago, maybe just a couple, and manufactured by the thousands. So that gave birth to the title of the exhibition or the body of work that I'm tackling here with Everlasting Remains. And then the Dutch Golden Age still life reappears back here as well, using a similar, using the same niche that I had over in that middle one from earlier on. So it's a lot of repurposing, a lot of recycling, reuse. The theme is that it's still life, but really exploring our single-use plastic and getting us to think about, yeah, these are beautiful images, but it's unfortunate that they were created from these other circumstances, the objects that were created from petroleum-based products and things that really are only there to protect the produce at any given time. So one of the things that I'm interested in the series Everlasting Remains is has more to do with the notion that a still life is a reminder of our own mortality. You know, we end up with the memento mori still life, which is a reminder of our death. We end up with still lifes that are about the celebration of abundance. You know, live life now while you can, because there's a time limit on things. So I am interested in this work conveying more of an idea of memento mori, but not as reminders of we're aware that we have a demise in store for us. I'm much more concerned with this overall planetary kind of idea of what's going on with the memento mori. The planet is in jeopardy. We're just free rides on this thing. And so we need to take care of what's going on. So the bigger message here would be, you know, think about every little bit of plastic that you have. Do you need it? So the Cabinet of Curiosities has always appealed to me, mainly because it houses all of my interests. It houses the Art Museum, it houses the Natural History Museum, it houses the Botanic Gardens. The Cabinet of Curiosity gave birth to all those collections. And if anything, every single one of us on this planet is a collector of something. Whether that's a collector of something with our phones and we need to do a selfie just to record the fact that we were at a particular place at a given time, or any of the other numerous tchotchkes we might have in a bag that we put out there to show everybody else what we collected. That Cabinet of Curiosity idea has always stuck with me because I think our role as artists is to be curious, and with that precedent, that history that's already there in front of us, I want to have more of a conversation of why aren't we more curious about the things that we're finding, and why can't we have that conversation that perhaps everything, if it's not precious, could be or should be, or maybe, you know, maybe that's worth collecting. So I'm interested in the stories behind the objects that we can find on the side of the road. All of that is informed by this particular work, in that I'm curious about what that projected image is going to do to the object, because now I've got this virtual conversation that's happening with the painting as it relates to the real object that I'm photographing. So I'm really interested in that kind of conversation that happens between the projected, what it's being projected on, and the surface of the things that are taking place. That's the real impetus with the Cabinet of Curiosities. These things are really curious. We've got a problem. I'm curious that there's not a solution that's not been implemented. You know, so there are a lot of those types of ideas. It's subtle work. It's much more about the poetic exploration. It's not that I am an environmentalist and I have lots of things to say and I want to show you what you can do to preach at you to correct situations. I'm interested in that formation of how I think through everything that I come across, and putting them together in a collection and photographing it seems to be the way that I work.
So can you run through your process from beginning to end again, now that we're here with the prints, just like how you would deal with making your negative?
Sure. Can I see all these transparencies? If you don't mind. So let's pretend this is the negative.
Okay.
All right. So I have to develop a curve that will work with the process. That means that I need a process that's going to correct the highlights and the shadows to get a decent tonal range overall. I have to print out that negative with that curve applied after I've done all of my adjustments, and it has to be a completely neutral black and white image on screen. When the negative comes out, it's literally doing this, and then I have an option. I could go out in a day like today, but I like my, because I'm a studio photographer, I like control. So I have a black light unit that you would use for silk screening. Mine's 6 feet by 4 feet, so it's a little bit bigger t-shirts. So I use that to do the printing on instead of the sunlight. I could measure the sunlight and do this au naturel anytime I wanted to, and they do make light meters that tell me how much UV light my exposure unit puts out versus the light on that given day, and I could potentially do that. But the moment the cloud goes, anything like that, that changes the contrast. These are roughly 2-minute exposures, 2.5-minute exposures. In the black light unit, they'll be about identical in the sunlight. What happens is the black light bulbs that I use, the UV light that's put out from them has a particular contrast range. It's measured in nanometers. It's really specific to that particular. When I do workshops in this, if somebody has made something, I have to do all this testing over again. So every time I want to change paper, toners, anything like that, I need to go and make a new test to make sure it's going to work out. So there's a lot of repetition. So I need that consistency under the black light bulbs.
How much harder is the calotype than the Van Dyke?
Calotype has had a bad rap over the years, which is one of the reasons why I'm trying to champion the Calotype, because it's not as difficult as people make it out to be. But it is chock full of ingredients. And so I have 6 different developers I can choose from to work, and they're all going to make a different version of the image, whether it's a black tone, brown tone, warm, red, that kind of stuff. The developer does a lot of that work. With the Van Dyke, the only control that I have there is pretty much through the toner that will alter the tonal range of the image. But Calotype, once you get beyond the fact that you've got to choose developers, and it's the same developer. Has anybody heard of platinum and palladium printing? So platinum and palladium printing came after Calotype, and the main ingredient is the platinum or the palladium instead of the silver. Calotype is far significantly less costly than the platinum and palladium. Although it's still tone in platinum and palladium, but here's the rub. Historically, you cannot distinguish between a Calotype and a platinum print because Calotypes were billed as platinum prints at some point. And so historically, you'll see a lot of platinum prints that exist in collections where they haven't done the chemical analysis to determine whether it's silver or platinum or palladium.
Right.
So there's a lot of platinum prints out there that are Calotypes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you print one negative in different to see which one fits best, or you already know when you go to the...
when I have the image, that's a great question. The image has a feel that I say, okay, this is going to be gold.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is I do look at these. I know that they're photographic, but they sure don't look necessarily like a photograph,
right.
Like any black and white photograph you've ever had. And that's that printmaking thing that I'm really eager to kind of explore. I use the Nikon D850 for this. So here's the thing that I think about a lot in terms of photography. I'm not an action person. I don't like people. I like all of you just fine. But I'm not a social person. I'm an introvert by nature and really reticent. So if I were going into the venues of photographing weddings, dances, sports, I'm going to own a different camera than what I do that's going to be less megapixels, that's going to be faster frame rates. So I'm looking for the slowest camera that has the highest resolution so that I can stand back and crop into my image if I need to. So 60 megapixels, 100 megapixels, I can get into a section of something and get exactly what I need. Thank you for this, I appreciate that.
So you shoot on the digital camera and then output the negative to like an inkjet printer on clear film?
On clear film.
4 inches wide?
It won't be as clear as that. It has a little opacity. It's called Pictorico. It's got a milky white base to it.
Oh.
It's also a material that I can use in traditional darkroom, so I don't need it for the alternative process. I can actually print out a 20 by 24 inch negative and the tone looks great. Yeah. The quality that you can get from an inkjet printer is really good. And one of the things that we don't think about in terms of the tradition of the history of photography is that photographic emulsions in the paper that you use in traditional darkroom work weren't designed to record every bit of information that was on that piece of film. I'm totally amazed with the results that I can get from a good quality macro lens to make copy work of all of my old negatives as opposed to scanning, because I can do it in 1/20th of a second as opposed to a few minutes. And the quality is, I can print them out 40 by 60 with, you're going to see some grain, but you're going to see some grain anyway. So that digital thing and the hybrid way of combining digital with analog, that's the way to go for me right now.
Yeah, sure.
I like that combination. My arguments for going monochrome is that the monochrome allows me to focus more on contrast, and that guides me around. Once color is added into the foray, that's also part of the composition too, and it takes your eye in a completely different direction. And it really kind of depends on who I'm talking to. If I've got somebody that was trained as a black and white photographer, they 100% will go towards the black and white. If I had an interview with somebody during the St. Louis SPE conference, and he was a young person, and was like, man, digital, that's all we know. Why are you doing that? It's like, wow, all right, this is great.
Are your students asking for the darkroom experience more?
We still have, our beginning classes all start off in the darkroom. The main thing that I preach is that the traditional darkroom is going to slow you down. We're making images at too fast of a rate for anybody to care. If you're doing this on Instagram and not doing this, that's the reason why we still exhibit prints. The online, it doesn't do anything. And so, it's just a scroll. I want to study, and that's why I like the photographic object. You can see some of the lines that make up the digital projection. I've even gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, I'll get my old slide projector out because I've still got a bunch of slides and project that, right? And so why not if I just didn't want that digital interference? But I'm kind of interested in that because that's what we do.
Yeah. Now that you're mentioning you have a slide projector, I was thinking you asked someone to make dry plates already. You could have wet plates 10 times, project those onto this instead of like a digital projection.
And that's, when you suggest things like that, it drives me nuts because I'll probably end up going doing it. Because that's the curiosity, it's play, right? It might not be fun play, but it's definitely play that I go, I don't know until I do it.
Right.
And so I'm going to make that happen. Okay? I have a meditation practice that I adhere to every day for an hour in the morning. When I get into the darkroom, that meditation practice just goes, because I'm working under Christmas lights. I can do all this stuff under fluorescent lights. These probably have a little bit more UV in them. But I can do this in demos in hotel rooms and things like that. But being in that dark room, having that running water, listening to having the Christmas lights going on, Lou Reed playing in the background, whatever. That's the meditative space, right? So that just brings me everybody should all have your own individual dark room. Have your calmer society. Been playing around with, so I've got a grad student that I gave the task of working with dry plate. So he's been manufacturing dry plates so he can make autochromes.
Oh, wow.
And it's been fascinating to watch that process unfold because there's really no reason to bring back the autochrome.
Right. Right. Right.
You know, it's like this guy is really interested in what those processes contribute to our family history.
Right.
Because all of our family history is recorded through process. Right? And it's been the change of Polaroid or color or digital. All that's, you know, the yellows are going away in my family album. So that process,
Oh, yeah.
you know, it's just changing.
Well, it's really great to see you, let's take new arenas in this area of historic processes. You know, I was with a museum in India which has these mid-19th century glass negatives. That's how was my introduction. I had to take care of them, so teach myself the entire, whatever I could.
Yeah.
And so in modern photography, there are very few artists I see who take historic practices and play with it. So it's been really great to see your work. And
You know, it's funny because the all process community, it ebbs and flows. It's like a 10-year cycle. Now it's on its fading out movement.
Right.
I'm still going to do it because I like it.